The words struck like a hammer blow on my 75th birthday. "You're just a burden in our lives, Mom. You need to get out of this house right now." Jessica Roberts, my own daughter, stood only a few feet away, her voice slicing through the air sharper than any knife. In my trembling hands I was holding a cake I had baked myself that morning, white frosting, yellow roses piped carefully across the top, 75 small candles flickering. I had imagined this moment as one of joy, surrounded by family, laughter, and warmth. Instead, I was facing rejection more brutal than I had ever known. David Anderson, my son, stepped forward before I could respond. His face was tight, his jaw set. Without hesitation, he snatched the keyring from my hands. The metal dug into my palm as he yanked it away, leaving red marks on my skin. His wife, Karen Lamb, raised her phone high, recording every second with a satisfied smile, as if this betrayal were a celebration worth preserving forever. Joseph Lee, my son-in-law, shoved a suitcase toward me, the same suitcase I had packed with excitement only a day before, believing I was leaving on vacation with them. The suitcase toppled against my legs like a cruel joke. I realized then that they had orchestrated everything from the very beginning. "You won't be needing these anymore, mother-in-law," Karen said, her voice sweet and venomous at the same time. "We'll take care of everything now." The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. For more than 5 decades I had worked in a textile mill, standing on sore feet during 12-hour shifts, breathing in lint and dust, sewing uniforms, and bedding for strangers. I had saved every dollar I could, pinching pennies so my children might have easier lives. Yet here they were, united in greed, determined to erase me from my own home. What pierced me most, though, was not Jessica's shouting or David's theft of my keys. It was the sight of my granddaughter Emily standing frozen in the corner. At 17 years old, she was still tender, still learning the world, yet her eyes were wide with horror. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clutched her ears to block the shouting. Finally, she looked at me with a sorrow far too heavy for someone her age. "Grandma, I'm so sorry," she whispered. Her small voice wavered, almost drowned by the noise. Before I could respond, Jessica yanked her daughter by the arm. "Be quiet, Emily. Your grandmother needs to learn she can't manipulate us with her victim act anymore." The words were poison, and they burned through me. Something cracked inside, not just my heart, but my very soul. For years I had endured their requests, their loans that were never repaid, their demands for help. I had told myself that family meant sacrifice, that love required giving without keeping score. Now, on the day that should have celebrated my 75 years of life, my children declared me useless, disposable, a weight they no longer wanted to carry. The betrayal did not come suddenly. I could see it now, in the cruel clarity of hindsight. Their recent visits, so frequent and polite, had been rehearsals. The curious questions about my savings, my jewelry, my home. The way Karen's phone always seemed to be pointed toward my documents, my bills, my furniture. The calculating glances Joseph gave whenever he stepped into my living room. It had all been preparation for this night, the night they would cast me out. Still, I had not been prepared for the brutality. David's face was blank, almost professional, as if evicting his mother were simply another line item on a to-do list. Jessica's fury twisted her mouth into something ugly and unrecognizable. Karen's recording eyes gleamed with self-satisfaction. Joseph stood tall, his arms crossed like a guard, ensuring I would not resist. I looked from one to the other, searching desperately for any glimmer of love, of hesitation, of memory of the woman who had raised them. There was none. And then, in the silence between shouts, I heard the tick of the old kitchen clock, the clock that had marked birthdays, Christmas mornings, and long nights when my husband and I had rocked infants to sleep. That steady sound reminded me that time had carried me through harder days than this, and it would carry me through again. But at that moment, humiliation burned hotter than any memory. The door was open. My suitcase was shoved toward it. My children and in-laws watched with eyes that dared me to resist. Behind them, the cake still burned on the table, 75 candles flickering like tiny warnings I had failed to read. I stood frozen between the life I had built and the abyss they wanted to cast me into. And though fear twisted inside me, another feeling began to rise, colder, sharper, more dangerous. It was the beginning of fury. Only 3 hours earlier I had believed it would be the happiest day of my life. My 75th birthday, what a milestone, I thought. I woke before dawn, humming an old hymn while I dusted shelves and polished the silverware that had belonged to my mother. The air carried the warm scent of cinnamon and fresh roses because I had spent the morning decorating every corner of my home to welcome my family. I hung the lace curtains I had embroidered by hand decades ago, back when my eyesight was sharper. Golden sunlight filtered through them, casting beams that made the living room glow like a sanctuary. I laid out the linen tablecloth reserved only for special occasions, smoothing the wrinkles as though I were smoothing the wrinkles of my own soul. The table was crowded with dishes that told the story of our lives. Pot roast the way David always liked, seasoned slowly until tender. Sweet cornbread for Jessica, who as a girl used to ask for seconds with butter dripping down her chin. A creamy vanilla cheesecake because Joseph never arrived without hinting at his craving. For Karen, I baked apple turnovers, sprinkled with sugar, though she never once thanked me. And for Emily, my beloved granddaughter, a tray of chocolate chip cookies still warm from the oven. I told myself this was love, this was family. I refused to see the cracks that had been widening for years. Jessica arrived first. She carried a bouquet of yellow flowers, bright and cheerful, yet her smile did not reach her eyes. "Happy birthday, Mom. 75 years, my goodness." She hugged me stiffly, her arms as cold as the silk scarf around her neck. Behind her walked Joseph, holding a bottle of bourbon so expensive it made my stomach twist. He had surely bought it with the credit card I had lent them last month. "Margaret, you look wonderful for 75, he said, slick and practiced, as though reading lines from a play. Emily peeked around her parents, and when she saw me, she broke into a run. She threw her arms around me, burying her face against my shoulder. For a moment the house filled with the warmth I had been craving. At least my granddaughter still truly loves me, I thought. Minutes later, David appeared, and with him came Karen. She wasted no time snapping photos of every corner with her phone. "Oh, mother-in-law, what a beautiful home. I love how you've kept everything so well." Her eyes lingered too long on the wooden cabinet where I stored important papers. Her fingertips traced its edge as if it already belonged to her. David kissed my cheek but avoided my gaze. "Mom, we need to talk after dinner," he murmured. "Important things about your future." His tone unsettled me, though I tried to brush it away. Dinner began, and so did the performance. Jessica praised every dish with exaggerated cheer, repeating delicious too often, like a rehearsed line. Joseph cracked jokes that no one laughed at. Karen kept photographing not just the table, but also the stack of bills on the counter and the jewelry I wore. "It's for memories, mother-in-law," she explained with a sugary smile when I asked why she needed pictures of my papers. "We want to save all the special moments." I should have noticed the way David glanced repeatedly at the property deed resting in its folder. I should have noticed how Jessica's gaze calculated the worth of each bracelet on my wrists. I should have questioned why Joseph asked about the insurance policy, pretending casual curiosity. But I was too grateful to have them there. For the past 5 birthdays, I had celebrated alone, singing quietly to myself before blowing out a single candle. This year, I convinced myself, was different. This year, I was surrounded by family. When the cake came out, its 75 candles flickering like little torches, Jessica leaned close. Her hand trembled as she lit the last wick. "Make a very special wish, Mom," she said, "because this is going to be a birthday you'll never forget." Her tone was strange, half sweet, half threatening, but I dismissed it, telling myself it was affection. I closed my eyes and wished, as I always did, for one thing, that my family would stay united, that I would never lack their love. What a cruel prayer it turned out to be. The applause when I blew out the flames sounded hollow, echoing through the house like laughter in an empty church. Joseph poured bourbon into crystal glasses I reserved only for Christmas. He raised his drink. A toast to Margaret for all the years she has given us so much. The way he lingered on the words so much chilled me, but I smiled, blind to the danger blooming around me. I did not yet know that behind the fake laughter, behind the hollow compliments, my family was plotting the theft of everything I had worked half a century to build. After dinner, the mood in the room shifted. The laughter that had sounded false now disappeared completely, replaced by a heavy silence. I gathered plates, hoping to cling to a sense of normalcy, but Jessica's sharp voice cut through my small efforts. "Mom, sit down. We need to talk about something important." Her tone made the hairs on my neck rise. I placed the last dish on the counter and returned to the table. My heart beat faster as I saw David straighten his tie. He always did that when he had something serious or unpleasant to say. "Mom," he began, his voice rehearsed and low, "we've been thinking a lot about your situation." "My situation?" I tried to smile, though my hands trembled. "Are you worried I'm too lonely? Do you want me to travel more? Maybe find a companion?" Karen set her phone on the table, but not before she swiped the screen to be sure the camera was recording. Joseph leaned back in his chair, smug as a man who believed he had already won. Jessica reached into her purse and pulled out a thick folder. She spread papers across the table, papers I recognized instantly. Copies of my bank statements. My breath caught in my chest. "How did you get those?" The question left me in a whisper, though I already knew. Jessica's eyes were cold. "We got them because we needed to understand your real situation, Mom. And we discovered some very interesting things." Joseph stood and began pacing around my living room like it was already his. He touched the family photographs, the furniture, the heirlooms with an intimacy that turned my stomach. "Margaret, you have a very valuable house, considerable savings, and no real plan for the future. That worries us." The word worries sounded like poison. What I saw in his eyes was not concern. It was greed, pure and undisguised. David laid out more documents, forms covered in legal jargon. "We've spoken to a lawyer. The best option is for you to transfer the house into our names. That way there will be no complications down the road. It would also be good if you gave us full access to your accounts, so we can help manage your money." The words hit like stones. My hands shook as I reached for the glass of water in front of me. "Why? You have jobs, lives of your own. Why do you need my money?" Jessica laughed, sharp and bitter. "Our jobs? Joseph lost his 6 months ago. David's office barely pays enough. And Karen, well, you know how unstable freelance work can be. We're drowning, Mom. We need your help." I swallowed hard. "Help? Or do you mean everything I have?" Joseph's jaw tightened. "Don't make it dramatic. Think of it as an investment in us. We're your family. We deserve the resources more than you do." Karen smiled sweetly. "It's not about taking, mother-in-law. It's about protecting you. You're 75. Managing money at your age is dangerous. You forget things. You get confused." Her words landed like daggers. I was old, yes, but my memory remained sharp. I could recall every hour of overtime I had worked in that textile mill. Every penny I had saved, every favor I had done for them over the years. I looked at David, hoping for mercy. "Do you really believe this is right, son?" He avoided my eyes. "Mom, we've made a family decision. It's for the best. You'll move into a nice community. They'll take care of you. We'll handle the house, the savings, everything." Jessica slid a gold pen across the table. "All we need is your signature. Here, here, and here." The words blurred before my eyes, not because of age, but because of tears. Yet one line burned into my vision: total transfer of assets and property. I whispered, "And what if I refuse?" Joseph leaned closer, his smile turning cruel. "Then we go to court. My brother's a lawyer. He says it wouldn't be hard to get a conservatorship. At your age, they'll believe us when we say you're incompetent." The threat hung in the air like smoke. I stared at the papers, then at my children. My life's work, my house worth more than $1 million, my savings of $2 million, the insurance money from my late husband, all of it was about to be stripped away. And the people leading the charge were the same children I had once rocked to sleep in this very home. Something inside me hardened. They thought I was weak. They thought I would surrender. But they did not yet know me. The silence after Joseph's threat pressed down on me like a weight I could not shake. The gold pen gleamed under the chandelier, waiting for me to surrender. My fingers twitched, but not toward the papers. I folded my hands in my lap, forcing them to stay still. Then, from the far end of the table, came a voice no one expected. "Mom, Dad, this isn't right." Emily. My sweet granddaughter stood with trembling legs, her chin lifted higher than I had ever seen. At 17, she was still more child than adult, yet her courage burned brighter than all of them combined. Her words rang out, shattering the tension. Jessica's head snapped around, fury flashing in her eyes. "Emily, sit down. The adults are talking." But Emily didn't move. "No, Mom, this is wrong, and you know it. Grandma has helped us our whole lives." "You can't throw her out of her own house." The room froze. For the first time that evening, shame flickered across David's face, though he quickly masked it. Karen lowered her phone, suddenly unsure whether to keep recording. Joseph scowled. Emily, you don't understand the situation. Your grandmother— I understand perfectly, Emily interrupted. Tears shone in her eyes, but her voice grew steadier with each word. When Dad lost his job last year, who paid the rent for 3 months? Grandma? When Mom needed surgery, who sold her jewelry to cover the bill? Grandma. When I needed money for my school trip, who gave it to me without asking for anything in return? Grandma. And now you want to steal everything she has left? That's not love, that's greed. Her words landed like arrows, each one striking where their armor was weakest. Jessica slammed her palm on the table. Enough! You have no idea how much pressure we're under. Your grandmother manipulates you with gifts and kindness. She's always been that way. Emily's lip quivered, but she did not back down. No, Mom. She's not manipulating me. She's showing me what real family means. Jessica's hand rose, poised to strike her daughter across the face. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. Don't you dare touch that child! The roar of my voice startled even me. It echoed off the walls, fierce and unshakable. For a heartbeat, everyone froze. Jessica's hand hung in midair, then slowly lowered, her eyes narrowing with venom. You see, she spat. This is what she does, turns my own daughter against me. Mom, this is exactly why you need to leave. You're poisoning us. David tried to interject, his tone pleading. Let's keep calm. We agreed tonight we settle this. Mom, please, just sign. It's for the best. I shook my head. For the best? For whom? Certainly not for me, and certainly not for Emily. Karen's voice dripped with false sweetness. You'll be more comfortable in a home, mother-in-law. They'll cook for you, manage your medicines. Isn't that what you want? Freedom from responsibility? I stared at her. Freedom? After 50 years of working 12-hour shifts in a textile mill, saving every penny, I finally earned freedom. And you would cage me in a nursing home while you spend what I built. Emily stepped closer to me, her small frame a shield against their hatred. Grandma, you don't have to sign anything. Jessica sneered. And what then? We drag this to court? We prove she's incompetent? Is that what you want, Emily? To see your grandmother humiliated by a judge? The threat filled the room like smoke, thick and suffocating, but the fire in Emily's eyes did not dim. If a judge saw what you're doing tonight, it wouldn't be Grandma who looked incompetent. For a long moment, no one moved. The family I had spent a lifetime building now stood split down the middle on one side, greed and betrayal. On the other, a girl with nothing but truth in her heart. Joseph finally broke the silence. He shoved the suitcase closer to the door with his foot. We're wasting time. Either she signs, or tomorrow we file for conservatorship. Your choice, Margaret. I looked at the papers, then at Emily. Her hand slipped into mine, warm and steady. In that instant, the decision was made. I might appear frail, but I was not powerless. I would not let them destroy me, not while Emily still believed in me. The gold pen still rested on the table. Everyone's eyes drilled into me, waiting for my surrender. Jessica's breath came fast. Joseph's arms crossed with smug confidence. Karen's phone aimed like a weapon. David's face twitched with unease, but he remained silent. I let my hands tremble, letting them think they had broken me. With a sigh heavy enough to convince them, I reached for the pen. All right, I whispered. I'll sign. The relief was immediate. Jessica's lips curled into a triumphant smile. Joseph leaned back, victorious. Karen tilted her phone closer to capture the moment. But they did not know my trembling hand was acting. Inside me, something had hardened into steel. As my fingers closed around the pen, my other hand slipped beneath the table. Hidden in the pocket of my dress was the small device Emily had taught me to use last month, a simple voice recorder on my phone. With one press, it captured every sound in the room, every cruel word, every threat, every admission. Before I sign, I said slowly, I just want to be clear. Tell me again, what exactly do you want from me? Jessica didn't hesitate. We want you to transfer the deed of the house worth more than $1 million and your savings accounts, all $2 million, into our names. It's safer that way. And if I don't? I asked, keeping my voice weak. Joseph leaned forward, his smile cold. Then we file for conservatorship. At your age, the court will believe us. You'll lose everything anyway. The words etched themselves into the recorder. Evidence. Karen chimed in with a syrupy tone. Don't be afraid, mother-in-law. We're doing this for your own good. My heart twisted at the lie, but I nodded as though convinced. I even touched the papers, dragging my finger along the line where they wanted my signature, my eyes blurred with tears, but not from weakness. They were tears of anger, of calculation. Emily squeezed my hand under the table, her pulse quick with fear. She knew. I forced a small laugh, bitter and hollow. You all have thought of everything, haven't you? Jessica shrugged. Of course. It's time you faced reality, Mom. You've already lived your life. It's our turn now. The sentence seared through me like fire, yet I kept my expression flat. I would let them believe I was beaten. At last, I set the pen down. Fine. Tomorrow morning we'll finish this. Tonight I'm too tired. Joseph scowled. No, you'll sign now. I met his gaze. Do you really want my signature shaking like this? It won't look valid. Tomorrow, when I'm rested, it will hold up better. That gave them pause. Even in their greed, they wanted everything to appear legitimate. Jessica finally nodded. All right, first thing in the morning. The decision bought me the time I needed. I rose slowly, gathering my strength. I'm going to bed. I'll sign tomorrow. They let me go, smug in their belief that victory was certain. Karen whispered to her phone, We finally did it. Joseph muttered about how he would use the money. David rubbed his temples, silent but complicit. Emily followed me to my room, slipping inside before anyone noticed. She closed the door, her eyes wide with fear and hope. Grandma, she whispered, what are you going to do? I pressed the phone into her hands. Keep this safe for me. Tonight they revealed everything. Tomorrow, it will save us. Her tears spilled over, but she nodded. I'll protect it, I promise. I kissed her forehead. You've already done more than I ever dreamed. Tonight you gave me courage. As she left, I sat on the edge of my bed. My heart pounded, but not from fear. For the first time in hours, I felt power stir within me. They thought they had me cornered. They thought the frail old woman had no fight left. But my real weapon was not money, not property, not even the documents they lusted after. It was truth. And truth was already captured in my pocket, waiting to strike. The house had fallen into an uneasy quiet. Jessica and Joseph argued in low voices in the kitchen. Karen scrolled through her phone, no doubt reviewing the video she had recorded. David sat slumped on the couch, his head in his hands. Emily had retreated to her room, clutching my phone like a treasure. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep was impossible. My children believed they had already won, but they had underestimated me. At midnight, I rose silently, slipped on my coat, and opened the small window near the back porch. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of grass. My suitcase, the one they had shoved at me, was waiting by the door. I carried it outside with steady hands. On the quiet street, I sat on a wooden bench beneath the dim glow of a streetlight. To any passerby, I looked like a defeated old woman cast out of her home. In truth, I was ready to strike back. I pulled out a slip of paper from my pocket. On it were 3 phone numbers I had memorized days earlier, when suspicion first gnawed at me. My fingers dialed the first. Mr. Gelborough, I whispered when the line clicked. It's Margaret. We need to activate the plan. The young lawyer's voice was alert. Are you certain? More certain than ever. They showed me tonight who they truly are. Then I'll file the protections immediately. By morning, they won't be able to touch your estate. Relief washed over me. My second call was to Nancy, the bank manager. She answered groggily, but her tone sharpened when I gave my name. Please cancel all secondary cards and require in-person verification for every withdrawal, I instructed. And begin the transfer we set up. It will be done within 15 minutes, she confirmed. Finally, I dialed Christopher Roberts, the real estate broker who specialized in rapid sales. List the property tonight, I said. The price we agreed is fine. The paperwork is ready. You'll have your buyer by morning, he promised. 3 calls, 3 allies. With each, the chains my children tried to fasten grew weaker. I leaned back on the bench, watching the windows of my house glow in the darkness. Shadows moved across the curtains, Joseph pacing in my office, Jessica rifling through drawers, Karen whispering into her phone. They celebrated too soon, like thieves who believe the treasure is already theirs. But their triumph was built on sand. By sunrise, the money would be beyond their reach, the accounts locked, the house already promised to strangers. A car rolled slowly up the street. My ride had arrived. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, lifted my suitcase into the trunk without questions. Airport? He asked. Yes, I said, settling into the back seat. As we pulled away, I turned once more toward the house I had filled with decades of sacrifice. The lights glowed warmly, but inside was only betrayal. Let them toast with my bourbon, laugh in my living room, sleep in beds they thought were theirs. By dawn, their kingdom would crumble. For the first time that night, I smiled. Dawn broke with a pale light spilling across the horizon. As my plane lifted into the sky, I imagined the scene playing out back at the house. My children still believed victory was theirs. They did not know the ground had already been pulled out from beneath them. By 7 o'clock, the first cracks appeared. Jessica tried to use one of my cards. Declined. She tried again. Declined. Panic spread like wildfire. At 7:30, Joseph phoned me. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Margaret, there's been a mistake. One of your accounts isn't working. Could you call the bank?" I let the call ring until it died. By 8, messages filled my phone. "Mom, some of your cards aren't working. We need you to sort this out." Their urgency bled through every word. They no longer cared about me, only the money. At 9, David left a voicemail, his voice cracking. "Mom, we need to talk. There are serious problems with the accounts. Please call me back." I sat in my airport seat, listening to their desperation, sipping coffee I had bought with my own cash. Justice tasted better than sugar. Back at the house, the blow landed hardest at 10 o'clock. Christopher's buyers arrived with legal documents in hand. The house, my house, had been sold overnight. The new owners demanded entry. Locks were scheduled to be changed by noon. Jessica screamed. Joseph argued. Karen tried to claim there was a mistake. But the papers bore my signature, notarized and binding. Everything was legal. Inside the house, Emily later told me, chaos erupted. Jessica accused Joseph of rushing the plan. Joseph blamed Karen for recording too much. David stood in the corner, silent and sweating. Their unity collapsed in minutes. By 11, their texts turned vicious. "Mom, how could you do this? You ruined us. We'll sue for family abandonment." I did not reply. From the safety of my small hotel room in another city, I watched the messages pour in. With every insult, every threat, I felt stronger. They had built their scheme on arrogance, believing I was powerless. Now they were the ones stripped bare. At noon, Nancy from the bank confirmed the transfer. Every cent of my savings, more than $2 million, secured in a protected account. The insurance funds, too, were beyond their reach. I imagined them sitting in the gutted living room, boxes half open, arguing over who was to blame. Their dreams of luxury vanished like smoke. For the first time in decades, I felt no weight on my shoulders, no constant demand for help, no guilt for saying no. Emily managed to call me late that night from a friend's phone. Her voice shook. "Grandma, they're furious. They said you betrayed them, but I'm proud of you." My eyes filled with tears. "You gave me courage, Emily. Remember that. Without you, I might have signed." She sniffled. "They lost everything. But you won." I closed my eyes, savoring her words. Yes, I had won. Not just money or property, but freedom. 1 year later, I sat on the balcony of my small apartment, the sea breeze carrying the scent of salt and freedom. The waves rose and fell in steady rhythm, reminding me that life always moves forward. At 76, I was finally learning what peace felt like. The apartment was not grand, 2 rooms, modest furniture, a little garden of potted herbs and flowers, but it was mine. Every chair, every curtain, every spoon belonged to me alone. There was no fear that someone would demand I give it up. After decades of sacrifice, I had built a sanctuary where I could breathe without guilt. Each morning I woke before sunrise, brewed coffee, and stepped onto the balcony to watch the horizon turn gold. No shouting voices. No bills shoved into my hands, no manipulation disguised as love, just quiet. Emily's visits became the brightest part of my days. After turning 18, she convinced a judge to grant her partial independence. When she arrived with a small suitcase and trembling smile, I felt tears burn my eyes. "If you'll have me, Grandma," she said, "I want to live with you." I opened my arms and held her close. "You are always welcome." Together, we created a new life. Emily enrolled in a university nearby, studying law with a fierce determination born from the chaos she had witnessed. She told me, "I want to protect people like you, Grandma. No one should face what you did." Evenings were our favorite time. We cooked together simple meals of roasted chicken, cornbread, and the chocolate chip cookies she still loved. We talked for hours about her classes, her dreams, her friendships. Sometimes she asked about the past, about her mother and father. I answered gently. They chose their path. We chose ours. I never contacted Jessica, David, Joseph, or Karen again. Their messages had shifted from threats to pleas, then to insults, and finally to silence. The last I heard, Joseph declared bankruptcy. Jessica worked long shifts at a diner. Karen moved back with her parents, and David rented a single room after losing his job. Their empire of greed had collapsed without me to prop it up, but I felt no satisfaction in their ruin. My true victory was not revenge, it was freedom. On my 76th birthday, Emily surprised me with a bouquet of yellow roses. She placed them on the table with a shy smile. "I know they used to bring you pain," she said, "but now I want them to remind you of me." I hugged her tightly. "They remind me of hope." That night, as the sun set in brilliant streaks of orange and purple, I wrote in my journal, "My best years didn't end at 75. They began when I finally chose myself." For decades, I had believed my worth was measured by how much I gave away, but I learned that true love doesn't demand endless sacrifice. True love is mutual respect, laughter in the kitchen, walking side by side without fear. True love is what Emily and I share. To the world, I may be an old woman with gray hair and tired hands, but to myself, I am a survivor. I am proof that it is never too late to reclaim dignity, to start anew, to plant roses in fresh soil. As I closed my journal, Emily's voice floated from the kitchen. "Grandma, the cookies are ready." I smiled, rising to join her. The past no longer chained me. The future, at last, belonged to us.